rolling up in here. All right, good afternoon or morning or whatever time it is. Let me just get it all together as usual. If you're a regular podcast listener, you have heard me say this lately. Just be patient with me as I make sure I'm recording on all the live streams. We're good. All right, we're logging into Zoom. All right. We're good on Facebook. Facebook, what's happening? What's happening, Facebook? And if you're a regular podcast listener, be sure to follow me on these three platforms. LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube is where I normally go live. Monday through Friday, no later than 7:30. No later than 7:30, depending on what I got going on that day. Tomorrow, actually, I'll probably be a little earlier, seeing we're not out of school, so. All right, LinkedIn, we're good. Let me just repost all this. Repost it. Yeah, we're talking about establishing your presence, not presence as in gifts, but presence. Presence. There's a difference between giving presence and establishing a presence, something that's going to be remembered for life. All right, so we're diving into that today as we round out our week-long discussion on the value of environments and how to create an environment, how to thrive in certain environments, understanding what environments is all about. We are rounding out that discussion today. And let me just make sure we're good. YouTube. We are rounding out that discussion today. And let me just, all right, we're all good. Let's go, baby. Let's go. All right, first and foremost, let me introduce myself to anybody that may be new to my world. My name, Aswan Cruikshank, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, former Division I college football player, and current five-time published author, five-time, soon to be six-time published author and educator. What I do, what I created, what this whole Move Swiftly business is all about is taking the innovative teamwork lessons that you learn on the football field and aligning them with businesses and business owners and organizations. So they have a staff, they have a group of employees, they have a team that moves as efficiently as a championship high school or youth football team. That's what we do around here in a nutshell. And what we've been discussing throughout this entire week is environments and establishing environments, creating environments, what environments can do. And it was sparked. Again, everything I do is inspired by the things that I live through every single day. Something may happen, something may pop off, something. Again, I'm the entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur since I was a kid, just an entrepreneurial minded person to where somebody could say something, I could read something, I could pick up on something, somebody says something to me, and that creates a whole week long's worth of content. So last week, I happened to the school I teach at, the Center for Creative Education. I happened to be one of the two bus drivers in the entire building, and I took a group of first and second graders to the botanical gardens. I had a quick opportunity to sit in on a lecture about how certain plants grow and the environment, stuff like that. And as soon as the person who works at the botanical gardens, as soon as she mentioned environments and how plants grow in Florida, I started thinking, okay, I pull up my little good old fashioned notepad, by the way, which was a gift actually from a teacher that I was working with last year. Shout out to Miss Santiago, Miss Besaida. Well, her first name is Besaida, but we know her as Miss Santiago around here. But she gave me this notepad last year when I was working with her. And it's like, she pulled me aside, she gave it to me. She's like, I want you to hold on to this. And whenever you run into an idea, jot it down, do something, put a note to it, because that's really when I restarted, writing articles again and putting a lot of stuff out there, really establishing the presence, establishing the person that you see online now. That's really where a lot of that stuff was kind of reignited in me as I got this new opportunity to teach at this particular institution, this particular school that I'm at now. So anyway, and ironically, it was her class that was at the botanical garden. So it was actually kind of cool to reconvene and reconnect with her and how her teaching style and all that, right? So anyway, they were talking about plants and environments and stuff like that. So I got the idea. I'm like, okay, that's next week's topic right there. I have the topic in my head for next week, but I'm not going to give it to you now. But in terms of when I was at the botanical gardens last week, That's what inspired this week's topic. And then some things that happened this week is what's going to inspire next week's topic. That's a system, folks. That's a system. That's a system. We dived in last week. We dived into the importance of really establishing and knowing and developing profitable and understanding your system. And it's crazy because even as I teach, like my day-to-day reinforces a lot of these things. Just yesterday, I was with the kids and we're going over fractions, and some of the kids were getting the right answer, but they didn't know, like it was multiple choice. They didn't know how they were getting it. And then I remember kind of re-emphasizing to them a lot of the points that I'm making right here to you is if you don't know how you got there, if you don't know your system, you feel me? If you don't know your system, if you don't know how you got there, this method, then it's impossible for you to be there in a consistent manner, right? It's impossible for you to show up and be successful over a consistent period of time. You're going to get lucky here and there. That's what happens. You're going to get lucky with a sale here and there. You're going to get lucky with this, going to get lucky with the right answer. All that's a gimme. But your systems, knowing your systems, knowing your how-to systems and how you got to where you got to that success, and then just simply rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. That's where we want to get to. And that's what this whole thing is all about. So let me, before Jesus, I haven't even got, let me get through the announcements. I'm going to get through the announcements real quick. And then we're going to talk about the topic, which is it's important that you establish your presence in any environment. When you really dive in and you soak in everything, okay? When you start soaking in everything and you really figure out how you are meant to serve this world, then you can establish the presence in whatever room it is you walk into. So we're going to dive into how to do that today. Again, first and foremost, let me just get through a few announcements here, and then we will get this party started. We will get the party started right. All right, so if you're looking at this via video, you can see that I offer free boxing lessons for anybody that's out here in the West Palm Beach area. It's free boxing lessons. If you're listening to this on the Move Swiftly podcast, it's freeboxing.makeyourmove.com. That's freeboxing.makeyourmove.com. We're not doing it this week. I usually do them every 2 weeks on a Saturday at a local park, and seeing that is starting to actually pick up some interest and get some traction. I could be back. I've spent 4 years as a boxing trainer at 9 rounds. So, I could be back in the game, depending on how monetary we could make it and who I'm working with and all that kind of stuff. So, it's something that I would never stop doing. I just love it so much. I love the concept. I love the idea. I love the understanding of teaching people how to defend themselves and they're getting in shape at the same time. And when it comes to the energy that I bring, it's such it kind of reinforces the work that I do on a regular basis, whether it is hosting workshops, whether it is teaching, whatever it is, learning these skills is absolutely so important. All right. So it's the first thing. Next thing, business owners, you already know. If you have not yet, go to freeguide.makeyourmove.com. That's freeguide.makeyourmove.com. I created a 10 bullet points, 10-step process on how you can utilize some of these things that we have made available to us right now to make it so your staff and your organization is starting to move in an efficient way. And again, everybody knowing their role, everybody knowing what they're about, and the communication is where it needs to be. All right. And Patreon, tap into the Patreon link, patreon.com/as144. We have everything from preseason, regular season to postseason. And all of that is available on makeyourmove.com. That's makeyourmove.com. If you're looking at this visually, you can see, you can shop, you could join the Patreon, you could book me to speak, or you could just simply learn more about As One Crookshank, or listen to another one of those absolutely fantastic episodes of the Move Swiftly podcast that come out every single day. And be sure to like, comment, share this video for anybody that you feel as though really needs to hear it. All right. Really needs to hear it. Okay. So establishing your presence. There are several avenues and several things that I can take you down when it comes to how to do this. And the best way, as I was really considering the best way to organize and the best way to translate this lesson to you all. There are four examples. All right, four examples that I have to share. And all four of these examples are the things that I actually lived through as a kid. All right, I actually lived through as a kid. And, I come from the football world, and the football world is a world that is an entity in itself. You learn things in the football world that just simply cannot be taught. It cannot be taught. Actually, in fact, if you heard me this morning on my Move Swiftly Thought, you heard me ranting and venting about the fact that Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter are now having their jerseys retired at Colorado before they have even played a game. And, I was very fair in that assessment, by the way, because I'm also if you ask me, I would tell you that the best college football player of all time that I've ever seen, and you're listening to a Michigan fan, and I'm saying this, the best college football player that I've ever seen in my life, personally, my ballad of Aswan, the ballad of Aswan Cruikshank, in my opinion, the best college football player there was during those college years is Reggie Bush. And I'm telling you, I still don't think Reggie Bush deserves to have his jersey retired, nor do I think Caleb Williams deserve to have their jersey retired. So, again, in general, I don't think college football should be retiring players' numbers. So I definitely didn't agree with Shedeur or Travis Hunter having their jersey retired, because it ruins what the game is meant to be. The game, especially at that level, is meant to transition young teenage boys into men. And when it comes to who they can become, they are at the beginning of their career, which means they should be able to wear whatever jersey number they want to wear. That's my take on the situation. I hate the fact that, because in my opinion, because of who his daddy is and because of the things that come with being Coach Prime, again, I speak very highly of him as a player, but as a coach, it just gets annoying, doesn't it? I think even the biggest Coach Prime fan has got to admit it just is starting to get absolutely annoying having to deal with this. And now it's not enough that you have your own documentary and the guy's going to be drafted now you got to retire his jersey too. Now the next Shedeur, who may have wanted to wear number 2, he can't wear number 2 now, even though he could have been just as good again. And this is something I would say about Reggie Bush. There's something I would say about a Caleb Williams. There's something I would say about a Tim Tebow. There's something I would say about anybody that performed at the collegiate level. Their jersey should not get retired because it's at the collegiate level. And the collegiate level is about attracting kids, little teenage boys, and allowing them to grow into men. So that whatever jersey number they want should be made available to them. That's just my take on the situation. All right. And I'm actually bringing that up because when we're talking about establishing your presence in any environment, the football world is the best place for you to really understand this and understand what leadership is all about. Because when you say establishing a presence, it is another way. It's just a fancy way of saying leadership and setting the tone as a leader, setting the tone in terms of how you're going to lead, what you're gonna be all about, and how young people are going to follow you. To me, that's the biggest indicator in terms of how well you lead, is how these young people follow you, how they remember you, and how you set the tone. How you set the tone from day one. I can't remember what book it was. I mean, I've read tons of leadership development books, but it was somewhere where I read, you can always go, and I use it all the time whenever I'm discussing leadership. It's one of my favorite topics to talk about. But you can always go from being an asshole to being nice. It can always happen. You can always go from being the mean, screaming person that doesn't take no mess, no zero tolerance person. You can always go from that person to being kind of the nice person that lets certain things slide and start smiling with the students and stuff like that. You can be that person. You can go from that, but you can't go from being the nice person to now all of a sudden, now I'm going to start having authority. Now all of a sudden, I'm going to start enforcing certain things. Now all of a sudden, I'm going to have a zero time. You can't go, it can't be the opposite. You have to be an asshole first and then turn into kind of, all right, we'll let certain things slide. But the students and the people that you're leading, they got to know you can get it. Like they got to know that they cannot cross certain lines. They have to know that from day one. It was actually a story that was written. This was back when Raheem Morris, the head coach for the Atlanta Falcons now, he used to be the head coach for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Raheem Morris and Mike Tomlin, the head coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers, they were like this. They were really close. They worked together. I believe they worked together in Tampa, but it was Raheem Morris who was mentioning something about how Mike Tomlin was responsible for his growth in the industry and the development and all that kind of stuff. And then it was the last year of Raheem Morris's time in Tampa. Now, his tenure at Tampa, Raheem Morris, when he was the head coach there, it ended rough. I mean, they were getting their ass kicked. I hate to bring it up because I like Raheem Morris a lot. But that last year when he was in Tampa as the head coach, these guys weren't even competitive. It was a bad situation. And a story came out about how, some of the things that Mike Tomlin did, because when you talk about Raheem Morris, you kind of associate him with Mike Tomlin. And they were talking about how when Mike Tomlin first took over the Steelers job, he said it was like the loneliest time and the loneliest couple of weeks that he's ever had, because he couldn't be the players coach, right? He couldn't be Mr. Nice. He couldn't be the fun guy because he's established and he's coming into a new environment as the Steelers head coach. And now he's replacing Chuck Noll first. The Pittsburgh Steelers have had 3 head coaches in their entire history. And that's ownership, right? That's solid ownership, because they don't go around replacing head coaches like that. But you have Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, Mike Tomlin, all right? That is when it comes to establishing that presence. And for the most part, Mike Tomlin has not had a losing season. I mean, the fact that people were even talking about him not being a Steelers head coach, I thought was just absolutely ridiculous, in my opinion. But he was saying when he first got in there, you're taking over a Super Bowl winning head coach in Bill Cowher. Bill Cowher won a Super Bowl. Remember, Bill Cowher retired. Bill Cowher was not fired from the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then Mike Tomlin took over. And then it became about, all right, look, I gotta show them this is my team. I gotta show them this ain't Bill Cowher. I gotta show them this is Mike Tomlin's team. And it's the same thing with even, again, I'm a huge Michigan fan. Same thing I was seeing with Sharon Moore. It's like, I gotta walk in this motherfucker like, yo, you in my, I'm the boss in this motherfucker now, right? And that's what I mean when I say establishing a presence. So I've lived through this 4 times. I've lived through this in 4 situations, from when I played it for the White Oak Warriors, when I played for the Good Counsel Falcons in high school, when I played for Carson Newman College in East Jefferson City, Tennessee, and then my final stop as a player here at Stony Brook University when Coach Chuck Priori was the head coach there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through the first impression I had with all 4 of the coaches that still in my own head. Look, I'm a 36-year-old man now, and I'd still, if I see I'll go back to being that player, because they had that kind of presence. Like, they had that kind of authority when they first addressed the room in a team setting, all right, to where they could make grown ass men feel like little kids when they start to, this is what we're about. And anybody that's been dedicated to the sports world knows exactly what I'm talking about. You have that coach right in your head as I'm talking. You're remembering that coach like, yo, look, I don't give a shit how old you get. He could still get up on your butt if you don't handle your business. All right. So it was so Coach Bryant went back when I was 6th grade. And for those of you who don't know, before him, I had experienced something with my teammates that made me a Michigan fan. In fact, let me see if I could find I know I've talked about it in several situations. I've spoken about this. Let me see if I have the thumbnail around. I do not. Hold on 1 second. I'm doing this for my viewers here. So podcast listeners, again, just be patient here. I want to do this one for my visual, if I can find it. If I can't find it, then we're just going to have to move on without it. Bum, 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 bum. see if I can find. Yes, I do. Perfect. Okay, so let me show you guys real quick. So back in fifth grade, I played for a team named the White Oak Warriors, and as you can see on the screen, we wore everything. Everything was Michigan. Everything we wore, from the gold pants, the wing helmets, everything. The only difference was our team name was called the Warriors. But as you can see, those wing helmets and the colors, the maize and blue, all that was something that was seeped into me as a kid. And what happened when I was this kid right here, number 51. I had a coach by the name of the late Coach Art. We called him Arthur Lanham. He passed away on the field. The last game he passed away on the field. I was the captain of the team, and he had passed away. Still get a little choked up thinking about it, because especially talking about it publicly, and seeing the colors, I see it, I get around it, and I go back to being that kid, right? I go back to being that kid. So the next year, what they did is they brought in the coach that I, to this day, say he was my favorite coach that I've ever played for. His name is Coach Brian Davis. And what happened, as I look back on the situation, because I was going from fifth grade to sixth grade, as I look back on the situation, I'm now looking at it from that coach's perspective. I don't look at it as obviously I lived through it as a player, but I look at it and I see, if I'm the coach that comes in after a group of boys just lost their coach in a tragic way, the way that we lost our coach, there's something I need to be doing to do what, right? Establish my presence. There's a sense there. I can't just shout at them on the field. I can't just berate them. I can't just MF them and be, all coach. I have to show them from the very first moment how much I care. I have to show them how much I'm about business. I can't be a pushover, obviously, but I have got to make sure that there's a presence amongst these boys that they're going to remember me the way, obviously, Coach Bryant laid out a great blueprint for it. So what he did was, there was two things he did. The first practice, I'm going to walk you through the first practice, then I got to get to the high school experience because I could talk about Coach Bryant the whole episode could be just about Coach Bryant's stories. From the first practice, it wasn't even announced by the head of the organization. The head of the organization at that time was a guy named James White. All right, James White. So James White didn't even announce it yet that Coach Bryant was going to be the one that's taken over for Coach Art. So they had a big practice, big jamboree session where everybody that wanted to play for the Brick Cheney White Oak Warriors, everybody just come out. We're going to run y'all through some drills. You're going to have a little fun. They're going to be, people out there, just kids, little boys running around, figuring out which teams they're going to be on, all that kind of stuff. So what would happen is the head coaches of each of the pounds, they would just kind of be walking around the field and they're looking at certain guys and seeing who's there. So Coach Bryant stopped because he wasn't running the drill. He goes, hey, who's playing 75? Who's playing for the 75? Because he was going to be the head coach for the 75-pound team. And he introduced the acronym that I still use to this day. You regular listeners may be tired of hearing me say it, but I'm going to say it again. Work ethic. The acronym is WATER, right? So it's work ethic, attitude, teamwork, enthusiasm, and respect. So he made sure he told us what that acronym was, number one. And then number two, he points me out. He points me out of all these boys. So he points me out because he notices how serious my face was. All right, you understand? And he goes, hey, and he told the story. He told the whole story in front of everyone. He goes, look, there was a group of boys who lost their coach on the field, who died on the field. And then he points me and he goes, look how serious Aswan is. Look how serious his face is. He was on that team. And then this is the beginning of summer, or midsummer, where it got real serious. It got real serious, especially for a kid like me who lived through it, but then it's transitioning from fifth grade to sixth grade into the middle school years. And things just, again, the presence that he had for those next 4 years of my life when he was coaching me, and we actually transitioned from Capital Beltway League to Pop Warner, and he became the head of the organization and all that. And then again, even to this day, whenever I'm approached or whenever there's a new opportunity for me to make an impression on a young kid's life, even last week, now that I'm not around the first and second graders as much, but they still see me, and there's that presence, there's that thought about you never know what a young man or a young girl is going through. It made me realize that's how it has to be if you want to be remembered, if you want to be someone that's really making a difference in these kids' lives. Now, the majority of educators out there, the majority of teachers and people and coaches out there, they're just going to do what they're told, do what's going to keep them employed and stuff like that. But when you kind of fall into the industry the way I fell into the industry, there's more of an importance now to establish that presence and make sure you're doing something that everybody else isn't doing, making sure you're establishing that place and doing what it is you need to do. All right. So that was youth years, right? That was, elementary, middle school years. Now I get to high school. Now I get to high school, and this is when it became one of those things where it's like, okay, this just got real, because you ain't with the White Oak Warriors no more. This just got real. All right, now for you podcast listeners, just know what I'm putting on the screen right now for the viewers, for the YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn viewers. On the screen is an article written by the man who coached me in high school, my high school head football coach. His name is Bob Malloy, and I'm reading the article. When you look him up, the very first article that comes up, good counsels, Bob Malloy retires a Maryland's all-time winning, it's supposed to retires as, they misspelled that. Come on, what is this? High School Football of America. How you going? See, they need to have me right. They need to holler at me. Hey, listen, High School Football of America. Y'all need to holler at me to have me do some articles. How you gonna have a typo on this? Okay, good counsels. Bob Malloy retires a Maryland's as Maryland's. Come on, man. Disrespect. The disrespect. Oh, the way they disrespect Maryland high school football, that kind of stuff drives me crazy. Okay, let me calm down. But anyway, the counsels, Bob Malloy retired, supposed to say as Maryland's all-time winningest football coach. Now, that's a fact. That is a fact. The 47 years, Bob Malloy's leaving the sidelines. Malloy, who is Maryland's all-time winningest head football coach, says 2016 was his final season. All right. So here is why I'm putting this up, because when we're talking about establishing a presence, that guy, slip, that guy. And I love telling this story. I think I've told this story maybe when I first started this podcast, but it's so important to retell it when you're talking about establishing a presence and what it's actually doing. What the hell it's actually doing, the kind of conversations that it's actually creating because of something you said and the way you flipped the script. That's it. All right. So again, I'm going to get through this. I'm going to get through this story because I still got two more college experiences that I have to get to. But let me just tell you, we've established the kind of legacy and the kind of the kind of culture I was around for my youth football days. All right. These were serious, absolutely just robotic, serious football coaches at the youth level that I had that did not take shit. I mean, they were in it. It was not one of these little like rec programs where they come every once in a while. No, these cats, we had coaches that were coaching while they had pneumonia. They were serious ass dudes, man. Some dudes. And Coach Malloy would recruit these coaches, and they would recruit all of these kids and, bring them into the Good Counsel program because, it's a private school and, you had to do these things. You had to make sure you were kind of keeping up with the Joneses and making sure that the right guys were coming in and you were able to coach them up and compete. Listen, we're competing with the DeMathers. We're competing with Gonzagas. We're competing with the St. John's. I mentioned Caleb Williams earlier. Caleb Williams went to Gonzaga. So we're competing with the best of the best. This is the cream of the crop we're talking about here, right? So what happened was it was the first meeting, very first meeting that we had with Coach Malloy. It was not, when I say first meeting, it's myself, it's my father, it's all of the kids in the Montgomery and the Maryland area, from Baltimore, from Virginia, from DC, everyone that, was thinking about, one of these private schools and playing one of these bigger schools. It was us and our families, and like our fathers, the ones who've been traveling with us and playing, doing football with us for the past 4 years at this point, right? So he's given kind of like an orientation, Coach Malone I'm talking about, right? He's given an orientation about what the program is going to be about, when we're expected to be arriving, what we're supposed to be doing workout wise, what we're supposed to do in the weight room. He's setting the tone, man. He's setting the tone. He's setting the tone as he now is as he's talking now to the future players, to the future incoming freshmen and their parents and all that stuff. He's setting the tone. He's setting the tone. All right. And then there was a real serious moment in that meeting. There was a serious moment where he goes, look, all right, a lot of y'all ain't going to play. There's going to be some of y'all in this room. There's not what you're used to, where, everybody, or you may be used to, he said it like this. It's not what you may be used to, where everybody needs to play, where everybody needs to, have a certain amount of plays and getting a certain amount of thing, because the league rules the league rules make it so you have to play a certain amount of minutes. He goes, no, some of y'all ain't gonna never see the field. And then he gives us this serious tone, like, some of y'all need to hear that. Mm-hmm. And you could see he wasn't just talking to kids. He was talking to grown ass men, like grown fathers and parents and stuff like that were taking it in, but also as young boys that were transitioning into our teen years. We needed to hear that as well. It's like, hey, we ain't in Kansas no more. We don't got little youth coaches, hoping and putting us on and all that kind of stuff. Now it's time to really show if you can ball, if you can play. And it ain't going to be about age or anything like that. It's going to be about who's showing up on the motherfucking field, who's doing that, right? So and this is what I mean when I say it. You have to establish, you do this not necessarily to be an asshole, but you do this because of the kinds of conversations that happen as a result of something you said. I'm going to say that again nice and slow, because I want to make sure it sinks in. I want to make sure you as an owner, you as a consumer, a thought leader, whatever it is you want to call yourself, a parent, coach, educator, you got to hear me when I say this. What you say, based on what you say, what kind of conversation is it sparking amongst the people that are listening? Come on. Woo! Come on. What kind of conversations are happening because of something you say? Because of something you say. What kind of conversations are happening, right? So when Coach Malloy makes this statement about, some of y'all ain't going to play and stuff like that, the next morning, I swear to God, I could bring my father on right here and he will confirm everything I'm saying right now. The next morning, my father looks at me. He goes, hey, you hear what the coach said? He's from Trinidad, so he goes, you hear what the coach said? He said, all y'all ain't going to be playing. See, you better get your shit together. So when I responded to my father that morning, said, that ain't going to be me. That is not going to be me. He wasn't talking to me on that one, because I'm going to show him that I can do it. And that's what I mean when I say, when a person says something who has some substance and he shoots you straight, that's why this guy's the all-time winning coach right there. I'm telling you right there. We can debate, and trust me, I've been there. We can debate his ability to call, like play calling and all that, and what he's doing with his play calls and all that. Listen, that's a different debate that we don't got to talk about right now. But in terms of leadership, setting the tone, establishing the presence, and making sure every single person that played is going into a game believing that they're going to win, and then the way he's touching families. That's what culture is all about. That's what winning is all about. That's what that shit is all about. That's how you build winners. That's how you build a winning culture. That's what made this business run. Like right there, that principle. All right. So that was 4 years of high school. And then my next 4 years of college, where I played where I played it. I played for two programs. One was Carson Newman College, and then the other one was Stony Brook University. And when I first got to Carson, I got to Carson Newman my freshman year, and here was this guy, the late Ken Sparks. Oh man, so he passed away a couple of years, actually around the time that I did get to Florida. He passed away, but let me tell you, this man absolutely changed lives. And for you, if you're listening to this on the podcast, I looked up Ken Sparks and the work that he's done. He's been at the same program, the same job. And the one football season that I had the opportunity of meeting this man, Ken Sparks. Oh man, I gotta tell you. So I spent, if you recall, yesterday, I talked a little bit about when I would be very active as a PCA trainer, as a Positive Coaching Alliance trainer. I'd go to high schools or go to coaches and youth programs and stuff like that, and I'd be teaching the principles that Positive Coaching Alliance has established as their core principles. And when I first started, before I was ready to do it on my own, I had the opportunity. Let me see if I can look him up too, because I know he's pretty well known in the. I'm laughing at this text message I just got. Let me see, Ted Cornetti. I think it is Ted Cornetti. Tampa, Florida. No, football. I'm pretty sure. Hold on 1 second. I'm pretty sure I'm Facebook with him, but I want to look him up just to see if I. No. Jeez. All right, Ted. What the, bro? All right. You know what? They better, Ted. Yeah, is this him? Football. You know what? Forget it. Not worth it. Anyway, I was working. No, I think there's a way to do it. Why is it? Oh, that's Cornetti. All right, forget it. Not worth it. It's not worth it. Overthinking it. Anyway, I was working before I was able to get certified, before I was established enough to do the workshops on my own. I had to co-facilitate, and one of the people I co-facilitated with was a guy named Ted Cornetti, and he's last I heard, he was a head coach at a Tampa school, but I think around COVID he had left because he was going to do some college stuff, and then COVID threw a lot of things off. But anyway, so when I was working with him, it just so happens that we are from the same area. He's from the DC area, and we got a chance to kind of chop it up a little bit before the people came in for the workshop. And then when we brought up Ken Sparks, because he's been in the game for years, he brought up Ken Sparks. It was like a sigh, like, oh my God, that man absolutely changed lives. And I'm going to tell you why. Because again, what we're talking about today is establishing a presence, establishing your presence. And this is what Coach Sparks was all about. All right. Coach Sparks was 1000% all about using God, using a relationship with God, using God's word as a way of establishing a connection to the game, like using the game, using the game of football to introduce us as players to the word of God, to introduce us as players to Christian values and Christianity. All right. That is what he was 1000% always about. Always. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I want to see if I can pull this up, because I think it is that important that I think so. So Ken Sparks and Tony Dungy. He had, let me see if I can find it. Ken Sparks, Tony Dungy. Oh man, they did a documentary together? Ken Sparks story told. Oh man, it's right here. Yeah. They have a whole documentary. Hold up. Wait, let me do some promo for my guy. The late Ken Sparks. I'm gonna have to watch this myself. Okay. They got a documentary. All right. Let me let this. I'm gonna let this trailer play real quick. because this is my first time even realizing there's a trailer that I could watch on this. Let me this play real quick. I didn't plan on doing this, but let me play this real quick.
He said, it's more important for us to win souls for Jesus Christ than it is to win football games.
This generation, coaches are the missionaries.
He was a warrior. That's what he was.
He inspired me. He gave me that role model of how to coach.
I'm watching all these guys who were my heroes on the football playing field cry and talk about Jesus.
It's amazing where God will step in to do his will. And he's using a game called football.
Wow.
There are thousands and thousands of guys all across the world, just like me, who are directly impacted by Ken Sparks.
Oh my God. Guys, I have this on. Oh man, I might need to take a second, guys. I didn't know that documentary existed. I will definitely have to. Wow, I definitely have to watch that. They got the whole thing available. Okay, yeah, I gotta watch that. I gotta expect some content coming out on that. I did not know that. You're hearing a raw, uncut reaction to that, because that's my first time. I was just looking them up to give you this, but in order to get, let me just kind of get through what I was going to say before. When you're talking about establishing your presence, as you just heard, Coach Sparks was all about the game, using the game to, introduce us to a life, a Christ-like life, and introduce us to some Christian values. So the first thing he did was, as we walked into the auditorium, and that first day, is that he gave us Bibles. He gave us Bibles, and he had us all sign contracts that were, look, not going to engage in alcohol, not going to do a lot of the stupid stuff that 18-year-old college males, football players do. And as he was talking, as he asked us to sign it, he got really, really serious. He didn't scream, he didn't yell. He goes, hey, look, if there's anything on that list that you can't commit to not doing, totally fine. Just leave, get up and leave this room. And it got real cold. It got real cold. As an incoming fresh, I'm speaking only for myself. And I'm sure there's several people that felt the same way, because Carson Newman was like a second chance school. A lot of people messed up other places, went there. Or if you were in my situation where your grades were just horrendous in high school, you ended up going to a Division II program and figuring out how you can get established there. But I remember feeling like really bad to know that I was going to sign something, and it was like absolutely unrealistic for me to actually think that I was going to be able to do the things that were on that contract. But the seriousness and the tone that he set there, and how cold it got in that room, I obviously I'm going to be remembering that one for life. So, didn't work out at Carson. I tore my ACL at Carson Newman, and then I had to move back home, go to community college, work in the real world, and work at a gym. And then I finally got to where I wanted to be at the whole time since high school, which was Stony Brook University. And at the time, this was Coach P, Chuck Priori, man. Chuck Priori's this was his thing. This was his place. He was the boss. He was the boss. And I will tell you, I don't think it's fair to judge him off that last year. That last year that he had, where he went 0-10, I don't think that is a fair assessment on Coach P's tenure at Stony Brook University. I think you got to think about how far he was able to bring the program from, Division III, kind of a really, really weak. You can see it's funny because when you Google Chuck Priori, you see him, all the things that he's accomplished. But the cool thing is the fact that you see my art. I did a whole episode talking about Coach P, and that's one of the things that pops up. That's one of the things that pops up whenever he gets Googled, because obviously we're in the podcast world now. But yeah, there's a Medium story that I did about him. I'm reading directly from Medium. It's a full episode analyzing the 18-year career of head coach Chuck Priori, former head football coach at Stony Brook University, who saw the program grow from a place that was bringing in Division III talent. You got to understand, at one point I was playing this, so I was Division III talent. So they were bringing in Division III talent type players to now to a program that competes in the toughest conference in the FCS. And it's important that I documented that and I spoke on that. As you can see, the date here, it came out December 18, 2023. And I was, when you look him up, you're going to see that was, one of the things. And, there's tons of material, tons of things that I've put out about Coach P, because that was the final stop, right? So establishing presence. I'm not sure. And I've mentioned a lot of people. I talked about some legends today in terms of the coaching world, like legends. I'm not sure if I've ever seen someone establish a presence like this guy. Hate him or like him or respect him, disrespect, whatever it is your feeling is, I'm not sure. I'm dead ass. And this is actually something that I'm genuinely trying to consider or put in my own head as I'm talking to you guys live. I'm not sure if I've ever seen someone establish a presence like him from day motherfucking one. The first meeting, guys, the first meeting was intense. There was a couple things. There's two stories I got to tell you. So it was when so I was a transfer. I transferred in. So I was doing a lot of the things with the incoming freshmen. That's when I met Todd. You guys, a lot of you guys, regular consumers know I talk about my boy Taj Deshaun a lot. Pops was actually also a transfer that year. Ryan Salazzo was also a transfer that year. There was several people that was just their first year at Kirkpatrick. There's a lot of guys that they had brought in, whether it be from a D2 or a JUCO or wherever. Again, it's a smaller program at this point. This is 2010. And we were all, and obviously the incoming freshmen is actually when you could recruit freshmen and shit like that before the transfer portal, right? So they were all, it was all a transfer, not transfer, excuse me. It was all the incoming freshmen. And Coach P was talking and giving everyone an opportunity to introduce themselves. And I remember there was this cat in the back, like really skinny, scrawny little white boy in the back that everyone kind of just looked. We didn't know who he was, but he obviously didn't look like a football player. But we all just wondering why he's in the room and stuff like that, because he was sitting in the back. And then when we got to him and he was time to introduce himself, Coach P felt that. He felt that. And he looks at all of us. He goes, look, he's more important than all you motherfuckers. And he was right, though. He was right, because that scrawny white boy, Joe Pitt, was the film guy. And he was the one doing the film and making sure he was doing more important work than we ever were doing, because he was actually filming and making sure the coaches had certain things like documented and they could break down film and all that kind of stuff. So that was when he addressed like the newcomers, right? And I'll close you out with this story, because when we all got together as a team, like the whole Stone, they used to call, I'm not sure if they still call it that, but they call it Goldstein Arena, Goldstein Center. Yeah, that was at the Goldstein Center, where we did our study hall and all that kind of stuff. We obviously, beginning of the year, before camp, we got to make sure physicals are right, medical stuff, all that kind of stuff to get done, all the logistical work that a lot of these football coaches really just don't like doing. So by the time it was time to kind of get going, it's like right before camp, Coach P just gets in his mode. He goes, all right, here we go. It's time to get this going. And just went in, absolutely just went in, and you start to feel the room get real serious because we're inching and we're inching and we're inching and we're inching and we're inching closer and closer to camp. Like we're getting there, like we're a couple hours away from practice starting, and it's time to get this thing going, right? So what happened was, and I'll close you out because I see my Wi-Fi. Hold on, let me give it a second because I see my Wi-Fi is starting to act. There it is. All right, Wi-Fi back. So the person who is responsible for all the medical stuff gives us some papers to sign or something like that. And Coach P, as they give him the papers to sign, Coach P starts to feel the room a little bit, and he feels us like talking a little bit. Just again, we're catching up. We haven't seen each other in a while. He looks at you. There should be no talking. There should be no talking. They asked you to fill out a piece of paper and put your name on it. There's no talking involved with that. I swear the whole room just got silent. Silent. And it was just, okay, let me just do this. Absolute silence. And that is what I mean when I say establishing your presence in any environment. You got to show up. You got to create a situation where you're going to be remembered, and you have to do it from the moment, the jump, and you can't wait on it. All right. So all that being said, again, here Monday through Friday. Tomorrow we're going to go faith-based Friday. We're going to be recapping the message. I won't be because we're not going to be at the school. So I'm possibly going to be in Miami. Again, there's a little situation with that, but I won't be here in this location, but I will make sure Faith-Based Friday gets done. It was a powerful, very, very powerful message from Pastor Craig. Everyone out there, again, if you are interested in diving deeper into all my work and the things I'm doing, just head over to makeyeamove.com. That's MakeYaMove.com. You can shop, you can join the Patreon, you can book me to speak. Be sure to ask about the employee development workshops. That is the main offer. The main thing that we do around here is making sure you as a business owner, you have the blueprint, you have the system to make it so your staff and your organization are getting better and you have a strong, strong presence. So all that being said, as one Crookshank, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker. Check it out. You guys continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon. Woo.